You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about friendship, love, and an incredible journey. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And this is our season finale.
Yep.
We did it.
We did it. 3 years.
We played all 3 games. It took us about a year each.
More or less, yeah.
And we survived.
We did. We're also doing something. I don't know how often we talk about it, but we've mostly recorded remote since towards the beginning of season 2. And now we're in person.
Yeah, we haven't been in person for a very long time. I moved to New Jersey. It became very difficult to sustain. And we both had a free day, so we decided let's close out the season how we began the show.
Yeah, together. And I can also, within arm's reach, bother her.
I hate you.
Yeah, I know.
You just poked me really hard in the leg.
I did. It's true. All right. So we've constructed this where we're going to recap our choices. We're going to ask each other some questions, and we're also taking questions from y'all, the listeners, from a variety of places. And then, of course, we'll close out talking about the future of the series, or at least the future of next season.
Mm-hmm. So let's kick it off. Recap our choices. First up, pre-service history. I chose colonist.
And I chose spacer.
Why did you choose spacer?
Honestly, I don't know that I thought about it for my origin that much. I guess because spacer is the one where you still have your mom and family is important to me, even though my parents drive me crazy. And so I think that kind of drove me towards it more than anything else. It seemed to be the most intact family, quote unquote normal life, less traumatic life, because I have trauma from my childhood. Everyone does. Right. But my childhood wasn't as traumatic as a lot of other folks. And so I think that's why I chose spacer.
Okay. I chose colonist because it reflected my childhood trauma in a very realistic way. It presented me with a shepherd who had been through a really awful experience and still had to rise up and be a good person despite of that. Or a successful person despite of that, because good is subjective.
Yes, that's true. Especially in this series.
And for psychological profile, I chose Soul Survivor.
Yep, and I chose War Hero.
Why did you choose War Hero?
Because I have a bad case of superhero syndrome, which you know.
I just wanted to hear you say it out loud.
Yeah. I spent a lot of my life feeling like I could save everyone, and it's gotten me into a lot of trouble. Because turns out not everybody wants to be saved. Fancy that.
Yeah, what a concept.
I'm assuming that Soul Survivor is also from the ding 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 trauma side.
Yes, definitely, because in Soul Survivor, Shepard is the only person to survive a Thresher Maw attack on their entire squad. So to lose your friends, to lose your family in such a traumatic way really sets up my Shepard to be on par with me mentally.
Yeah.
So we are starting at the same place.
Which was kind of the goal of all this.
Exactly. Class.
So I chose Vanguard because I am a creature of habit, mostly. Vanguard's my favorite class. Funnily enough, I've mentioned this a few times at this point, but I didn't choose Vanguard in my Legendary Edition playthrough because I played it for this podcast. I played it for my last playthrough before the podcast. And so I was like, I need a Vanguard break. But I love shotguns. I'm a close range kind of player in most games. And so and also in the second and third game, charging from point A to point B is just fun. So
it really is. I chose Sentinel because I thought the kind of marriage of technology and space wizardry was really appealing to me. It suited me personally. And I really enjoyed it. I liked having the tech armor. I liked having certain powers. I wish that you could have also had charge.
Yeah.
Because the tech armor plus the charge would have made me feel very happy.
Yeah. Then the next thing is we're going to talk about our major... So from here on out, we're going to talk about our major choices throughout the series. If you're a regular listener of the show, you're familiar that our guests get a gauntlet of questions, especially in the third season if they've never been on before. Most recently with the incredible Kate Sanchez, we went through all of their choices. So following that pattern, but expanding a little bit, we're starting, of course, with the Reignite Queen, which we both saved.
Yes. And I saved the Reignite Queen because I don't approve of genocide. And she also does a really good job explaining what it was like for her and what it was like for the Reignite, why they had gone to war previously. And she explained that wasn't something that we chose to do. It was something that we were manipulated into. And I can't even really explain how or why that happened, but it's not in our nature. And I just want to go to dark space and hang out with my children. And you know what? You do you, baby.
Yeah, I also disapprove of genocide. And so I did not kill her either. And yeah, it's mostly all the same reasons. Like, I think we were pretty aligned on that. Also, I do want to say at this point, if you hear rumbling in the background, it's because it is raining in Brooklyn where we are recording. And so I am not going to bother to edit that up.
It's raining in Brooklyn.
All right. Our next choice is, of course, Rex status. We both let Rex live. This is kind of a no-brainer. Rex is an incredible character. He is important to the story, and killing him is like I feel a cowardly way to end it. Like, there's no resolution there. You just cut the problem off instead of solving it. And I feel like communicating with him is you solve the problem.
I do agree. I would like to point out that we resolved this problem in two different ways.
That's true, yeah.
Because I spent the time getting to know Rex, and I learned about his family history and about this armor that had been stolen from his family.
Yeah.
So I knew about it and decided, hey, I'm going to help you because you're my friend, and I'm going to go get this armor for you. So when it came to that conversation on Vermeer, I had no reason to use charm or intimidate on him because he was already on my side.
Yeah.
I had already done him this favor that no one else would have ever done for him. Like, he already viewed me as an equal by that point.
Yeah, I had forgotten about the armor mission, which I have not forgotten again since. And I don't remember if I did in my like classic back in the day playthrough. I probably did. But yeah, so I had to charm him, which of course I did because I always make sure that by the time I get to Vermeer, my charm is maxed or as close to maxed as it can be, because there are a lot of important choices from then on that really rely on you using Renegade or Paragon, charm or intimidate.
Right. And then this is where we differ. Our Vermeer survivor.
Obviously, I saved Caden.
Right. And I saved Ashley. I saved Ashley because of her sense of sisterhood. She loves her sisters. She is the one that is looking out for them, and they still need her. And while I also love Caden, choosing to save Ashley does not mean that I don't love Caden.
Right.
I saved Ashley because in that moment I felt like there was more of a need for her to survive. Like, there were people out there who absolutely needed her to survive.
Right.
And that was why I made that choice.
Yeah, and how's that worked out for you?
Look, it's not my fault that BioWare never hired me to write anything for them. Because if they had, Ashley would have had a more fulfilling narrative arc.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I chose Caden mostly because, and we can admit now at the end of season 3, I had started to fall for him. Like, I think at that point, I definitely had a crush on him, but I thought more like, he's interesting. This is the first time I really got to know him because I knew we were doing this game and I was a different person now who is more empathetic than I was when I was a younger dipshit. I decided to like actually explore his background, and he's really sympathetic and he's had a lot of hardship, but he's also fairly positive and kind and our marshmallow. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to save Caden because, who knows where this will go. And unfortunately, I am still very much in the camp of Ashley is a terrible xenophobe who should die.
Which is valid.
Yes.
I'm never going to tell you that that's invalid.
Because it's true.
I think it's a valid take. I think that she is difficult to get to know.
Yeah.
If you do spend the time to get to know her, you find out that she likes poetry and she's also religious, which is weird, but okay. It only comes up for 10 seconds where she's like, you're cool with the fact that I'm religious, right? And you can either say like, yes, I am too, or like, I don't give a shit. Why would I care?
Yeah.
But I think that when you do like Paragon with her and you use the charm, you do bring her down from her extremist views.
Yeah.
And I would have really liked for them to have her look at Cerberus and be told like, hey, if you don't cut it out, you're going to be like them.
Yeah.
You might as well join them. And for her to have that come to Jesus, so to speak, moment.
Yeah.
But she never does.
Nope. Sure doesn't.
So.
Yeah, I might save her in my Legendary Edition second playthrough, but I'm still undecided.
If you want to enjoy the game, just don't.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just don't.
Next, of course, is our council status. We both saved them.
Yes, we both saved them. My reasoning was because I didn't want to perpetuate this concept that humans are just out for themselves.
Yeah.
And don't care about the way things have been done before we joined the galactic nation, so to speak. Like, before we came onto the scene, things were being done a certain way. And is that necessarily the way it should always be done? No. But we're also the newcomer, so maybe we shouldn't try and destroy everything immediately.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, it would be Sovereign destroying them, not us.
Right.
But still. My logic was pretty much similar. Also, it's the whole, well, just because they were assholes to me doesn't mean they deserve to die.
Right.
So, yeah. And so I did it for the same reason, more or less.
Anderson or Udina for the council?
Yeah, this is a decision that's haunted me since season 1.
Why ever would it have haunted you since season 1?
So I chose the middle option, which you don't really get a lot of in Mass Effect 2 or 3, but in 1 you did. And the middle option for this was you don't make a choice, and then the choice ends up being Udina in the second game anyway. And I stood idly by, which reflected a certain, now, thank God, over political administration where people also stood idly by. So, I felt real bad about that for a long time, and we'll never do that again in this game.
I just needed to drill it in every single time it came up.
Yeah.
The dangers of standing idly by.
Yeah.
I chose Anderson because not only was he my dad, but he was someone who I knew would have the best interests of humanity at heart and would not be there simply for a power grab. Whereas Udina just oozed that need for power. And no, thank you.
Yeah, and like I will say here, I kind of hate that the game retcons this. Like I understand why. Like Anderson is a man of action and should be on the front lines, but like it makes it feel like the choice in 1 is kind of invalid, which is also sort of why I didn't care that much that I was undecided and it was Udina, because it ends up being Udina anyway for narrative purposes, which is kind of a cop-out. I get why. It made sense in the structure of the story. It just feels like a cop-out choice-wise.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that's valid. And that's it for our Mass Effect 1 choices. So, not a lot of really key choices in Mass Effect 2, I feel, that like require a huge debate or anything like that. But I do want to highlight the kill or rewrite the Geth choice, because that has been one of our most divisive across the seasons. I chose to rewrite them. Yes,
and I chose to kill them. And what's been great about this choice, talking about it with guests, especially since like in season 1, we had a lot of guests, but not on every episode. In season 2, we had a guest just about every episode, save a couple. And in season 3, we had a guest on every episode, I'm pretty sure. We may have missed one. And that's the plan for the future as well, is to continue to bring in other perspectives besides our own. And every time we asked this question in season 3, there was a reason for the answer that was different. Even in the episode we did with Rob Starobin, sorry, apologies for mispronouncing your name again, because I always will. He and I both killed and had different reasons for it. And so I think it's just fascinating because, again, I know so many people who, like, I put down, the first time I had to make this choice, I had to put down the controller. I had to take a lap. I was like, what? We've shouted this from the rooftops. It shouldn't be Shepard's decision. It is not Shepard's decision. And yet. And I think in that episode, both of our reasoning was very sound. I still can't say that one is right in that moment.
A lot of people see rewriting as brainwashing, which is a valid read when talking about organic species, but they're not organic, they're synthetic. They view this very differently than we do, as is explained by Legion.
Yeah.
Because when you say, like, isn't that brainwashing? Legion goes, okay, well, let's talk about what synthetics are like for a minute. And Legion explains it to you. And honestly, it felt more like deprogramming than brainwashing, because they had already been misled by the Reapers and effectively indoctrinated by the Reapers to believe that the old machines are gods.
Right.
All we're doing is returning them to their consensus and undoing the damage that the Reapers did in the first place. That's why I felt like rewriting was a better option. Also, when I asked Legion if they reached a consensus, it was 51% in favor for rewriting. And I said, okay.
Fine, good enough. I can blame you. Yeah, killing, and like for me, killing, it was like trying to put logic to killing Geth when we spent an entire game killing these Geth is like, there was no moral quandary then.
Right.
Why is it a moral quandary now? You know, yes, genocide is bad, but this is also not genocide. This is a small sect of the Geth, which he tells you when you talk about killing, he's like, yeah, this is not a majority. This is a small offshoot of heretics. The larger Geth consensus doesn't line up with this. Don't agree with the old machines.
It is mass murder, though.
It is mass murder, but we'd been mass murdering them for a game and a half.
No,
so
that's
like,
fair.
like at that point, the morality of it felt kind of numb to me, you know, because they were essentially our Nazi fodder that, you know, like I never feel bad about killing Nazis in video games because they're fucking Nazis.
Right.
It was a similar kind of attitude towards the Geth. Of course, that's very wrong by the time we get to the third game, but these Geth were always brainwashed and evil, quote unquote. So, you know, that was my logic. Ultimately, they're both fine. They're both valid in that situation. That's terrible that you shouldn't be making the decision anyway.
They are what they are.
Yes.
Suicide mission status.
I saved everybody like an expert.
Zaid died for me, and that's because I put him in charge of the second fire team. And when you do that, apparently, despite the fact that he started the Blue Suns all those years ago, and he's a mercenary and he's armored, he can't handle it.
Yeah.
And he gets shot in the stomach, even though I had his loyalty. So I think that's stupid.
It is kind of dumb.
But okay,
yeah,
fine.
I've since read a lot of the, like, when I was playing the Legendary Edition, I was like, I want everyone to survive. I want this to be, like, a maximized playthrough. Because I was still doing a similar-ish thing to Reignite with this character, but, like, I wanted to metagame a little. And some of the requirements or some of the things that make them non-viable make no sense. Like, there was a certain thing that, like, Jacob is not viable for, even though he should, and same for Garrus, and it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand either. So a lot of it felt arbitrary. But yes, so that's how the suicide mission shook out. And then the final decision within that mission is, of course, the collector base. We both destroyed it because fuck the elusive man. Yeah.
Speaking of the elusive man, let's kick off our Mass Effect 3 choices by talking about him.
Yeah.
Every conversation with him, you have to either charm or intimidate him throughout in order to get like the best outcome of this.
Question mark?
It's questionable. I must have missed one because I try to answer things the way I would answer things. So I must have missed one of the charmer intimidates because he then did not commit suicide in a fit of, what have I done?
Yeah.
Instead, I had to shoot him. And you know what? I'm fine with that because fuck you.
Yeah. I did get all of them, and I did get him to commit suicide, which I feel like is a nice bookend to the final conversation you have with Saren in the first game. And, like, I like that duality. Also, again, we hate the elusive man. Martin Sheen's performance, though, is incredible.
Oh, no. The actor is amazing. The character sucks.
Yeah. And so that final moment is still pretty powerful. Questions about the ending itself aside.
Yes. So I'm glad that I got to kill him. That's all that I care about. The Reignite Queen, again.
Yeah, we both still saved her. I was miffed this time, and I even took some renegade responses like, what the hell, you know, kind of a thing.
I didn't take any renegade responses with her because it's not her fault.
It's not, but I'm still mad. I'm still salty at this point because, like, I had to convince so many people. I took Rex with me in my Legendary Edition playthrough. I took Rex with me in the first time you encounter the Reignite Queen, and he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're a moron. Like, it's very funny to get that perspective I'd never before. But yeah, in this playthrough, I was just like, I was kind of miffed, but I still saved her because you're right, it's not her fault.
She is a victim, and there's a part where when you take the Paragon response for why you're saving her, and it's she's too valuable an asset. No, it's because she's a victim.
Yeah.
It's because she is being, like, held captive by the Reapers and forced to produce Reaper forces. She doesn't want to be doing that.
No.
Like, she doesn't want. Save the Reignite Queen.
Yes.
She deserves it.
Yes.
The outcome of Tuchanka.
We both warned about the sabotage. I must have, on a Renegade playthrough in the past, gotten the Dollar Trust and done the sabotage, but I don't remember what that's like, because it's definitely not the majority choice. Again, I don't like genocide, so I'm not going to sabotage this. I'm not going to let Morden sacrifice himself for nothing either, which is essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell him, or then they'll all find out, and it's you just let it die.
Well, if you take the Renegade choice and Rex and Bakara are both still alive, it's impossible to also get Morden out of there.
Yeah.
Morden is going to find out no matter what.
Yeah.
And if you're taking Renegade, he's going to find out. He's going to say, I have to go up there so I can launch it. And if he does, he'll figure out that it's sabotage. And you have to stop him, and you have to kill him to stop him from doing it. So neither of us did that.
No, definitely not.
Poor Morden. Morden died nobly.
Yes.
The outcome of Rannoch.
Both brokered peace.
Yes.
I love this line of missions. We talked about this endlessly this season, but the Geth storyline is probably some of the best environmental and cultural storytelling in the games. Yeah, also, I know the alternatives, and I did it once on purpose to see it and still had to undo it. Because
it's upsetting.
For those who don't know, if you can't broker peace and you side with the Geth, Tali kills herself.
Yes.
Because the fleet, the
fleet's basically destroyed.
Yeah, the flotilla gets destroyed, and most of the people she knows gets destroyed, and so she kills herself, and it's brutal. And I was like, oh, it's a video game, I can handle it. Nope. Too traumatic.
Absolutely not. You leave my girlfriend alone.
Yes.
And, the Geth have done nothing wrong. They are all just defending themselves from being slaughtered wholesale by the people who created them. So, really, brokering peace is the best option.
Yeah.
And if I can't broker peace, then I would side with the Geth, because you guys are so fucked up.
Yeah.
Just let them live.
I will also say about this mission, in my Legendary Edition playthrough, I romanced Tali, and it adds a lot to this mission. Just the emotional weight and how Shepard and Tali communicate. It was really cool to see. I think there's a lot of stuff in 3 like that, I'm guessing, based on how a lot of the missions are organized. And so I'm curious how Thessia goes if you romance Liara and things like that, which I think I've done, but it's been a while. And so I think it's fun to relive that through the Legendary Edition and see those minor changes and differences.
Yeah. And now we have the Crucible choice.
We both chose Synthesis.
Which surprised me.
Me too.
I vaguely thought that you would choose Destroy.
See, and I vaguely thought you would too, which is why I think we both ended up on Synthesis. I knew neither of us would choose Control, because it was too closely associated with the Elusive Man regardless.
Right.
And so I knew neither of us would choose that. But yeah, I mean, and I think our reservations about Synthesis, we talked about that very recently in more in depth, so you can hear that in the last episode. But essentially the lack of free will to opt into this, essentially, taking away people's agency to decide if they want to become part robot, you just do it, was my hesitance. But also, killing Edie and all the Geth was not real. Again, genocide bad.
Right. That was just not an option for me. And if I can guarantee peace for the people that I love, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Honestly, after we talked about it in that episode, and the way you framed Control still seems more appealing than Destroy, only because it's really based on how much faith you have in your Shepard's existence and ethos to carry out the good of the future.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust a Renegade Shep with that shit.
No, not even a little bit. And it's funny because it is kind of framed as the Renegade option. And a Renegade Shepard might be as ruthless as the Reapers.
Exactly. And I don't know. No, thank you.
Nope. No,
Hard
thanks.
pass. And you have on here thoughts on multiplayer.
Yeah, the one thing that is obviously very absent from this playthrough is talking about the multiplayer. And I think part of it is we were both on separate platforms. We both love the multiplayer, but being on separate platforms and not being able to play it together, and I haven't tried to queue up and play with random people. I think on PC at least it's pretty active, but you're playing a 360 game, which the online is probably not even
I don't
active.
think it exists anymore.
Right. And so, but we both did love the multiplayer. I love the variety. It's the first time you get to play other races. I got to be a Krogan Vanguard, as I should be, headbutting my way through the galaxy. And it was a lot of fun. It was co-op, wave-based encounters where you would fight hordes of enemies until you won. And I like that kind of multiplayer. I don't mind competitive multiplayer, but cooperative multiplayer is
Yeah.
always my favorite.
I always really enjoyed it when you and I could play because we got to share in this thing that we both love.
Yep.
And I didn't really like playing it by myself and like meeting up with strange people because then they have to see that I'm not good at video games.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please don't yell at me. I'm just trying to get my percentages up. Please don't yell at me.
Yeah, and that I think we both agree is one of the best improvements of Mass Effect 3 in the Legendary Edition is that I'm sad that the multiplayer is not there, but I am glad that your percentages do not require it.
Yes.
And it's much easier to get the high number assets, the astronomical number, because there's no like reduction by 50%
Exactly.
based on the multiplayer stuff. So yeah, I mean, I really do like it. I do miss it. If BioWare added it as like a post-game patch where you could still play it, I think that would be cool. I don't see it happening. But yeah, I think it was a lot of fun and a good way to handle multiplayer in a mostly single-player game, because competitive multiplayer, like they've put in a lot of other AAA titles, it's not fun. It's nothing like the main game.
Yeah. Moving on from that, someone who has been present throughout all 3 games... Conrad Werner.
Yeah, only present for you. I screwed up the timing in the first game, and like for those who don't know who Conrad Werner is or are unfamiliar with his arc, he's a super fan that you meet in the first game, and you have to talk to him every time you're on the Citadel between major decisions, because his arc has like 3 or 4 or 5 parts, maybe. I don't remember how many. And if you don't go frequently enough, you will then get locked out of the final choice to like send him away, however you choose to do it. And then you won't see him again. And so I did that. I screwed up. I didn't get that like 3rd or 4th conversation. And so you never see him again. Yeah. You got to see the full arc of Conrad Werner.
I did get to see the full arc. I always treated him very politely, using charm on him because, you know, he's kind of harmless. He's just a guy who's prone to obsession, and when you see him in Mass Effect 2, he acts like you treated him with Intimidate no matter what. It doesn't matter.
It's a bug in the game.
It's a bug in the game that they never fixed.
Nope.
It makes me very upset.
Yeah, but in the 3rd game, when you see him again, he does say sorry.
He does apologize.
Yeah, he says, "I'm sorry I lied about you putting a gun in my face," which is based on the Paragon choice.
I was in a very bad spot.
Yeah.
But I really like that you see Conrad in every game. He always shows up. And then in Mass Effect 3, he's doing his best, but still bad.
Yeah.
He's trying to do some recruiting for Cerberus because he remembers that you worked for Cerberus, and he's trying to follow in your footsteps, but he's not up to date. So he doesn't know that you're not with Cerberus anymore.
Yep.
So he's like, "Oh, I messed up again."
Yep.
You did, but it's okay. We can fix it. And we do fix it. And he also has a dissertation that can be used as a war asset if you talk to him enough and you run through all of these like previous things you had done. Like you met someone and did them a favor.
Yeah.
If you got all the matriarch writings, like if you got all of those things, then it will be 5 war asset points, but it's 5 war asset points. Like,
yeah,
it's free points.
It's pretty cool also that like Conrad keeps screwing up throughout the games, but it's not because he's stupid. It's because he's a little naive, because in this moment he shows that he's actually really intelligent, has done some really smart scientific work, and that work benefits you if you give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I like Conrad. I think he's fine. He's just a little weird.
Yeah, I can see how femme-presenting players might be more uncomfortable with him.
Yes.
But as a guy, I was just like, oh, you're dumb and harmless. Fine.
Yeah. Like, there is this kind of awkwardness where he tells you that he doesn't have any family and all of his friends are on the extranet, and you remember, wait, you told me you had a wife.
Yeah. If
you have some kind of creepy shrine to me.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's very tasteful.
Yeah.
It's just a poster and some candles.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to make a side character progress throughout the games. There are other characters like Barlavan and a few other characters that you will hearken, who you interact with a bunch of times, but those are more kind of anecdotal, whereas Conrad, you know, it's a full arc of this character, and it's kind of interesting to see that happen. you know, every other character that we love from the first or second game, they usually only get one other spotlight. Like Kiriki is only in 1 and 3, things like that.
And then the last piece is a romance.
Yep. I romanced nobody in the first game. I romanced Jack in the second game. And then I romanced Caden in the third game. I think I flirted a little bit with Ashley just because I'm a flirt. But, like, I avoided Liara like the plague because I felt like a predator because she seems so much younger when you play as a male shep.
Because she's a baby.
And turns out she just needs to be a little lightly seasoned with trauma. And then...
Yes.
Anyway, and so I didn't romance anybody. And then in the second game, I spent a lot of time talking to Jack and, like, trying to reach her. And, like, ended up falling for her. And that's a tricky relationship because if you take any of, like, the easy, like, oh, let's just have a one-night stand stuff, like, she totally kicks you to the curb and is like, this wasn't worth it. Like, she rejects you. But if you're kind and receptive and, like, you're a good friend, there is potential for a flourishing relationship. And then we, in the third game, we're like, yeah, that was a thing, right? Like, but we're okay, right? Yeah, and kind of amicably broke up. And then I confessed how I felt for Caden to him when he confessed his feelings for me over a steak dinner on the Citadel. Mm-hmm. And I love that relationship. I see why Kenneth Shepard trumpets that relationship from the mountaintops. I mean, it's also because he's gay, and it's the only canonically gay relationship besides Steve. And actually, technically, Caden's bisexual because you can do either. The only canonically gay relationship is Steve. Steve is the only 100% gay relationship. And I just, Caden is one of those characters that I completely ignored in previous playthroughs. I thought he was a nothing character, and I fell for him in every way in this playthrough and really learned to love a character that I had no interest in previous playthroughs. Your relationship stuff, though, after one is pretty one-sided.
Okay, so...
Oh, actually, no, it's not that cut and dry.
It's not that cut and dry, because in Mass Effect 1, there was a bit of a flirtation with Liara, and I pursued it to an extent, but then I hit a point where I was like, you know, this doesn't feel good. I don't think we should see each other anymore. And I definitely told her, like, this isn't the time. No, absolutely not. And the game just kept acting like we were together, even though I had explicitly said to her, like, no, we're not doing this. And in Mass Effect 2, reconnecting with Garrus, I have always been a Garrus stan. I've always loved him immensely. I wasn't sure if that was still going to carry through, but it still did, because it mirrored my own relationship with my spouse, which was a, like, casual, like, haha, do you want to sleep together? Oh, no, there's feelings involved. Oh, what? Because that's how my spouse and I got together. It was, haha, let's be bed friends. And then suddenly, oh, no, we're dating. How did that happen? I don't remember agreeing to that. And yet here we are. You know, and it reflected that relationship, and it felt very right for me. Though there was a scary moment where I thought it was going to be Thane.
Yeah.
Because Thane is also great, and he's also communicative, and he's loving, and he's sweet. He's a great dad, or he's trying to be a great dad anyway. And the reason why I didn't go with Thane is because the option to pursue that relationship really stole the focus away from his relationship with his son.
Yeah.
And for me as a person, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
I'd be like, you need to focus on you now. So I romanced Garrus throughout 2, and I continued that romance in 3. And I kept telling Liara, we are just friends. Can you please stop?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Liara also, though, and you mentioned this in the last episode too, I think Liara falls for Shepard no matter what to a degree. And then, like, by the third game is just comfortably your friend. But there's definitely a deep love there beyond just your casual friendship, I think.
Yes. It just feels awkward if you had that kind of flirtationship in 1 and it developed without you wanting it to.
Yeah.
They put a picture of her on my desk, and I'm just like, why would you do this?
Yeah, it's funny. I keep bringing up my Legendary Edition playthrough because I've only recently just finished it. my relationship with Tali in that game feels more mirrored to my relationship with Sarah, my spouse. Like, Tali is just, she's so brilliant and so incredibly awesome, but also sarcastic as hell and a giant nerd. And it's one of the, like, I see my relationship with Sarah in that relationship, which is why I pursued it this time. But I really do love how the Caden relationship evolves. And like, it's genuinely sweet and kind and warm and not a cliche.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a flamboyant queer. He is just kind and sweet, and he's kind and sweet regardless of his sexuality. Because if he's bisexual leaning straight, or straight presenting, I guess I should say, he's still the same character. He doesn't change.
He's still like that with femship.
Yeah. So romance, Mass Effect, woo.
The whole reason we play the game.
Pretty much, yes. Like, who you fucking? That's the question, right?
So now that we've recapped all of our choices, let's ask each other some questions.
Sure. I'll go first. What was your favorite mission?
So Stolen Memory, I think, is probably my favorite, if not then the casino mission in Citadel. Because for the same reasons, they subvert the traditional mission like formula.
Yeah.
And you're doing something a little bit different. And it gives Shepard a chance to just do something else, flex some other skills.
Yeah. No, I love when missions go off the beaten path. For me, I think that it's really hard. I think because I didn't play it beforehand and then got to experience for the podcast, it elevated it a lot. But I think Citadel might be my favorite missions, just because it's really fan service, the DLC, and I don't see that as a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
It's really a lot of fun. I'd say, if disregarding Citadel, probably the Rannoch run. I think everything leading, it's hard to pick Rannoch by itself because everything leading up to Rannoch is so good also. And I think that's my second favorite mission set. Favorite, excluding Citadel, is the run up to and completion of Rannoch and Brokering Peace.
What about least favorite mission?
There's a lot of them. Not a lot of them. There are a bunch of small ones that miff me, but I think that Jacob's mission, after this playthrough for sure, rings the hardest as like a failure on every level. I'm so glad we had Chuck with us for that episode in season 2. I think we all wrote a better version of that mission.
I think so too.
And so BioWare should hire us for the remake.
I'm going to write some fan fiction based on that. So my least favorite mission is the Samara loyalty mission. I also hated Jacob's loyalty mission. That is up there. But for me, it's the Samara loyalty mission with Morinth. And the reason why I hate it so much is because BioWare looked at the controversy that stirred up with their sapphic romance between a femshep and Liara, said, well, we have to appease the conservatives, then created a queer woman who was a serial killer that you cannot empathize with at all. And then you have to choose between the serial killer who you can't empathize with and the woman who is seeking justice for all the people that serial killer has killed, who has already sworn to you. Like, that's not a choice.
No.
That's absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And while I liked that there was this moment where you had to convince Morinth that you were worth her time, like you had to do some social stuff in order to prove that you were interesting. I liked that aspect, but the overall narrative of this mission was that, see, we don't like queer people. Look, we created one that's specifically a killer that you're supposed to kill. You're supposed to kill this one.
Yeah.
And like, it's just upsetting to me, and it reminds me of the rules surrounding lesbian pulp fiction in the 50s and 60s, is that in order to write a sapphic romance, one had to be, quote, cured and turned straight, had to marry a man, or one had to die.
Yep.
Like, it either had to be tragic or they had to be cured. And that's what this reminded me of. And, I would rewrite this one as well. I would rewrite this so hard.
Before we move on from favorite and least favorite missions, I do want to quickly shout out probably my favorite side mission, which is the Luna mission. I talk about it a lot. It's just the closest this game gets to horror, and it's not even because it's ambient horror. It's silent. The music is weird. There's no voices. It's just, and how it pays off in Mass Effect 3, like, that's an arc that's up there, like from nothing, almost nothing, to this giant thing. So yeah, I have to shout out the Luna mission as well.
For on par with that, I want to shout out the pyramid that you find that you can put Shaira's trinket in. And it gives you this flashback of when the Protheans were observing humans.
Yeah.
Because then you can bring that up to Javik.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, what the fuck? And Javik's like,
Yeah, wow. Easiest choice to make.
Saving the Reignite Queen.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to do.
Yep.
Because you're just like, yeah, okay, I will not commit genocide today.
Yeah.
Done. Easy. How about you?
That's a pretty big one. I would say typically the easiest choice to make is picking Anderson for the council. I screwed that up once and it won't happen again. That'll be my future easiest choice to make.
That's fair. What about hardest choice to make?
I mean, I think it still goes to the House Divided mission. I think that choice I always spend time thinking about it every time, even though I know the outcomes. I always spend time thinking about it. So yeah, I think the Legion loyalty mission, House Divided, will always be rewrite or kill the Geth. Will be one of the hardest decisions for me every time. What about you?
It was the final decision, the Crucible decision, because I took 40 minutes just weighing all the possibilities and reading like other people making the same arguments I was making to myself and just being like, yes, that's exactly the thought that I had. Thank you, person on the internet who did not help me decide either way. Like it took me 40 minutes and then I cried for a half an hour to 40 minutes. It was brutal.
I still did that bit, but without as long a decision because I was on a time crunch. Because I waited till the last minute, like I always do. What moment gave you the most anxiety?
Oh my god, I was waiting to find out if brokering peace between
Yeah.
the Quarians and Geth worked, because you don't get the achievement until after you leave Rannoch.
Yep.
So I'm sitting here like, I just, Is Tally about to kill herself? I can't with this.
Yeah.
I just...
Especially since we claimed that we couldn't, like, redo anything.
Yeah.
So if Tali killed herself, she'd be dead.
It would just be it. That would just be it. And I'd have to live with that. And I don't know if I can live with that. That was my biggest anxiety. Like, did I do everything that I was supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, have I set myself up enough to win?
Yeah. For me, it was the suicide mission. Just because we agreed that all deaths in that were final, and we couldn't use a guide. We had to do from memory, and based on the knowledge we had, make the choices. Yeah. And I made some choices and was worried that I made the wrong ones. And thankfully I didn't lose anyone, but the whole time until literally we're getting on the ship to leave, I was worried that I was going to lose someone just in case. So yeah, that one for me is definitely the most stressful.
That's fair too. That is second most stressful for me. Because I'm just remembering in my legendary playthrough recently of sitting with John just being like, it didn't show me that anyone died. Did anyone die? Give me the achievement. Give me the achievement now. So I feel that. I do. Favorite squad mate?
I mean, people know already for both of us, I think, but it's Grunt. I love my lizard son. He will always be my favorite character. And because it's Stephen Bloom, as I've said, but also now having played the Citadel DLC, you can literally click on him for 10 minutes in the shower. Baby. In the shower, he has like 18 or 19 different things he says, including mumbles that are incoherent. It's the best. He's the best. I love the moment we just did. Like when you talk to him, you do your goodbye phone call. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Thank you for releasing me from the tank." Like he'd not thanked you for anything except in Citadel. He sort of thanks you for getting him out of trouble. But like that was the first like genuine emotional moment you've ever had with Grunt, even though he's your lizard son. And so yeah, I love him.
He's a good baby. For me, it is a tie between Garrus and Tally, because we just work so well together as a team. Yeah. But also they've been with me for so long. They are my favorite people. They are my polycule. Yes. We are a polytriad. We all date. It's fine.
In your mind, at least.
Yep. That's all that matters, honestly.
And then the final question is, Do you have any regrets? Any decisions you made that now you regret making?
I regret the romance with Liara.
Yeah. You regret even flirting.
Yeah, like, it took me too long to come to the conclusion that this romance just isn't appropriate for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like it set things up very weirdly between us as friends. And it worked out in the end, but if I could have gone back and changed something, that's what I would have changed.
That makes sense. I regret my decision to let Garrus take the shot. In the moment, it felt right based on how my character was developing. But like later on, I felt bad about it. I felt extremely bad about it. And like, that's what regrets are, right? You can't go back and change your life. I mean, we can play these games again, thankfully. But yeah, I regret that decision. I feel like it was out of character for my shepherd, but like it made sense to make a brash out of character decision that he and I both regret.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for questions that we have for each other. Now we have some listener questions.
Yep.
We posted in all of the places. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and we got some questions from our friends who've been on this journey with us. So let's start off with a couple of questions from @Kerfliggle, who messaged us on Discord. Now that you've done a full trilogy playthrough for the pod, are there missions you look back on differently than you used to? Has it changed your experience of the games in any way?
I mean, yes, I think we talked about that pretty much throughout the series. Like, obviously, I view Caden differently. Obviously, I view the Jacob mission very differently. Mm-hmm. But I'd say something that we've only touched on a little is I view Miranda really differently through this playthrough.
I do too.
Like, I always thought of her as another, like, kind of cheap human character, much like a lot of the other disappointing cheap human characters, Jacob, Ashley, there's like a list. But like I really turned around on Miranda. Her arc is incredible. And also, obviously, I turned around on our favorite space himbo. Like I loved James this playthrough.
Yeah, James is great.
I had so much fun with him. I like the character. I like his big, dumb, stupid face. So like character-wise, those are big ones for me. Mission-wise, I don't know if I've really turned around on any missions that I can think of. I feel like the ones that I didn't like, I still didn't like, and the ones that I do like, I do like. I mean, I'll say I turned around on Pinnacle Station. I went from only slightly loathing it to absolutely hating it. Pinnacle Station sucks, and I'm glad it's not in the Legendary Edition. Yeah. There, I said it.
Pinnacle Station was just not fun.
No, not at all.
Armax is so much more fun than Pinnacle Station.
Way more.
For me, I think that this playthrough allowed me to really vocalize the things that I didn't like and the things that I did, and helped me explore why I didn't like those things. Like, I never liked Samara's loyalty mission, and I couldn't really put my finger on it until now as a fully fledged adult with opinions about LGBTQ issues, who knows about things like the Lavender Scare and lesbian Pulp Fiction, who can draw on those historical things to talk about why it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think that us doing it this way made me more effective in communicating like my feelings on it, and it made me a little more academic. Push his glasses up my nose.
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, it was a similar thing with Jacob's mission. Like, I knew it sucked, but I couldn't figure out why. Whereas now, as a not sexist, openly minded queer person and feminist, I was like, oh, this is bad on, and I'm not a racist. Like, oh, this is bad on just about every level for a person of color. And yeah, this mission sucks.
Yeah. When you work hard to be anti-racist, to be an ally, to be conscious of the marginalized groups you want to support, you learn very quickly when their voice was not in the room when something was created.
Correct.
So when playing Jacob's mission, it was very evident whose voice was not in the room. And I think we both felt that, and we were both able to communicate it. Oh, God, I hate Jacob's mission so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because this on my Legendary playthrough, I really like Jacob as a character more. He's just so inconsistent because his writers were probably white and not good.
Yeah, I want to like Jacob more, and it's down to his writing.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Really it.
Totally. Kerfligel asked us a second question, which was, how was you Shepard different from your normal Shepard? And I think this is a really interesting question. And MJ and I talked about this briefly beforehand. We have very different opinions on it. So like I said before, I have a canonical Shepard. My first Shepard, my Fem Shep, redhead, ended up kind of looking like the default Shepard. Rain Shepard was my Xbox 360 playthrough. She romances Liara through all 3 games. She was a Vanguard. Like that's my canonical. I created a character that isn't me playthrough. And she's still a Paragon because I'm me, but like she made more renegade decisions. She didn't feel uncomfortable by Liara because, it felt less predatory. A, I was younger and dumb, but B, because I was playing through this lens of this woman and it just it felt okay, for better or worse. Was a Vanguard still, so that didn't really change anything. And I don't remember if she was a war hero or what her origin was. It's hard because it was so long ago and I don't have my 360 anymore.
I feel like you would have chosen war hero.
Probably. But like there were some differences, but they do run along the same line. And I started a second playthrough of the Legendary Edition recreating Rain Shepard. I picked a different class because I felt like that was unimportant to her character. But like I think I'm still going to romance Liara, but the larger decisions I may let be nebulous. Also because who can remember that long ago? Because I don't have that playthrough anymore. Yeah. So. But you don't feel like you have a canonical Shepard.
I don't have a normal Shepard, as Kerfligel states it, because whenever I play these kinds of games, I put myself into the moment and I play an idealized version of myself. And the idealized version of myself always tries to do the right thing, is always empathetic, always tries really hard to be kind. So there's really not much of a difference between the Shepard for Reignite and any other Shepard that I play. Like when I did my Legendary Edition, the difference was that the character looked a little bit more like me.
Yeah.
Like that was really it. It's not, my spouse and I sat with the character creator and tried really hard to make the character look like me. Ultimately, she looked like Scorpia, but hey, you know what?
I wouldn't complain.
I tried. They don't have blue hair. I did my best. And my best wasn't great. That being said, whenever I play a visual novel, whenever I play a character, like a game where you can really insert yourself into it, I give it my all and I give it all of me.
Yeah. My canonical Shepard felt like writing my own fan fiction in a way that I didn't realize that parallel until recently. Mm-hmm. And like every subsequent Shepard I created after that, I can't remember their names, but I remember I had 2 Renegade Shepards. I had 2 default Shepards and 2 character creator Shepards, like unique looking Shepards. And so like but none of them stayed with me as much as Rain Shepard did, which is why I consider her my canonical Shepard. And for many years before Reignite, my default pronoun for Shepard was she and her, because I bonded so close to Jennifer Hale and that Shepard. And I think it's interesting that this game caters to both of those kinds of playstyles. You can write your own story every time, or you can write your story with minor variances every time.
Next question is from CJ Writes Stuff on Discord. What drew you to the Mass Effect franchise?
I mean, it's funny. I think I told in the first episode, we both tell our origin stories, but like the short version is my friend Andrew Daniele, who I'm still very good friends with, bought an Xbox 360, bought this game because he loved BioWare stuff. He loved Knights of the Old Republic, and I think the older Baldur's Gates were them too, and was like, there's this space opera game called Mass Effect. It's by BioWare. They're amazing. You need to play it. And I was like, meh, I don't like shooty games. And then I ended up staying there for 8 hours straight with our friend Brian as well, creating and playing as a character. And then after that, of course, what drew me to Mass Effect get me coming back was the characters. It's absolutely the characters. You can say so much about the games, but I won't say nobody. I would be surprised if people played these games mostly for the combat and the mechanics. It is unlikely.
Well, that's what my dad did.
Right. So, I really love the characters. They feel like actual friends, and I know they're not, but they feel like it. And so that's what keeps me definitely coming back to Mass Effect.
So for me, years and years ago, I was dating this guy who was an absolute nerd.
Yeah.
And we were living together, and he told me like he loves this game and he thought that I would love it too. So because we were living together, I was working from home, I had access to his game system, so I was able to play. And that, listener, was Matt Storm.
It was me. Guilty as charged.
So Matt really introduced me to Mass Effect because he thought that I would really enjoy it. And he was right. It took me a while to get into it, though, because the autosave was so bad.
Yep.
And I didn't know that. I didn't play a lot of games. I really like Skyrim. Ooh. Big, loud.
Wow.
I really liked Skyrim. I think I definitely played Skyrim before I played Mass Effect.
Maybe? I don't remember what order those came out in.
I don't remember either.
It's fine. The internet's yelling at us.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's fine. And it took me a while to get into it. I tried it. I hit a point where I kept dying. And I was like, fuck this. I don't want to do this. So I put it down. And then like a week later, I picked it up again. Because not only you, but my friend Brandon, other friends that we had that were really into it were like, no, you got to give it a shot. Like, constantly saved. You'll be fine. So doing that, I got more into it. And also what keeps me coming back to it, like Matt said, the characters, also the ability to explore these moral quandaries and also to explore my sexuality and my queerness. Like Liara was the first time I was able to explore my queerness.
Yeah.
And I will always be thankful to her for that. But I maintain romancing aliens is a queer act overall. So romancing Garrus, it's very gay of me.
If it's good enough for Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, it's good enough for us. CJ writes, second question, CJ writes stuff, that is. I don't want to cut off CJ's name. What are your thoughts on Mass Effect's future?
Thoughts and hopes.
Thoughts and hopes. My bad. I have old eyes and can't see.
Well, I want to make sure that we say hopes because I definitely do have hopes. I really hope that the next Mass Effect game is going to continue what they've started in Andromeda. Matt doesn't know anything about Andromeda, so I won't get too into details, but I felt like they set up a very interesting world and a very interesting story there. And it would just be sad and upsetting if they let it fall by the wayside and decide to do something completely different. It would be great if they can somehow unite the Milky Way and Andromeda, but don't let those story threads that you've set up just fall away.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Having not played Andromeda, it's hard to have hopes for that yet. But like my hope for whatever the next Mass Effect game is that it's not about Shepard. Mm-hmm. I like Shepard, but I hate the idea of there having to be a canonical ending. There are 3 choices at the end of Mass Effect. If we are importing our choices, a la Dragon Keep, like for a Dragon Age or whatever else, however else they decide to do it, if we go back to Shepard, I don't think we should go back to Shepard or Ryder. I haven't played as Ryder, but like I think it should be a new character or give us a control of an existing character. I don't know that I need to create a character in every Mass Effect game. I think it's important, but like I also would love to play some of these other characters or races. My biggest hope for the next Mass Effect game, not a fucking human. Let me be literally any one of these other amazing races. Do a Dragon Age. Let me pick my race. Please. Like, it just seems so confining. I get why they did it for Dragon Age 2. And ironically, it's one of the reasons I like Dragon Age 2 best. But, like, it's limiting. I want more from that.
I would very much like a Mass Effect game with the Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age 3 character creator.
Yes.
Where you choose your race and you choose, like, your gender and your class, so to speak. Because those races have stories to tell as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, my final hope is, like, lots of new characters and interesting storytelling. I of course want some of these characters to come back, but like in that really short teaser, having Liara discover a piece of Shepard's N7 armor, it's like make it in the far-flung future. Maybe she found Shepard's body again.
Mia Sari can live up to 1,000 years old.
But like I don't want it to only be about those old characters, those pre-existing characters. I'd like some of them to come back, but I think a new story, a fresh story, something that does tie both of these games together. I think Andromeda shouldn't be forgotten, but like don't make us Shepard again. Make us someone new, start a new trilogy, and let us be any damn race we want.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Also, Krogan romance, Solarian romance.
Give it to me.
Batarian romance.
I want it all.
I don't care so much about Volus romance, but hey.
You know.
If that's your thing, I hope it happens for you. I really, really do.
Our next question is from Gallant Designer on Twitter. And also, coincidentally, Velvet Divine, previous guest of this very podcast on Discord, asked a very similar question. This very podcast. Asked a very similar question. So we are combining them together. What's your favorite side conversation to overhear?
I don't know if it's my... So, it's the one that I'm most emotionally invested in. And it is the girl who keeps checking in with the CSEC officer at the refugee camp because her family sent her on ahead to keep her safe and they are not coming. And he keeps checking on her to just be like, hey, is anyone bothering you? And just, I want them to be together as a family. Like, I want him to adopt her. And, like, I think they need each other. And it's the one I'm most emotionally invested in. It's not the funniest. It's not, like, the most narratively fulfilling because you don't ever really get into that narrative. But it's the one I'm most invested in.
Fair. My favorite is the running joke that gets a punctuation mark, and it's hearing the creator of Elcor Hamlet or the producer of Elcor Hamlet talk about making Elcor Hamlet happen. And I love that. You hear it every time you walk up and down the Silverstone Strip, and I love it. I think it's great.
I have an honorary mention, and that is the conversation between the Infiltrator and the Vorcha about the N7 mission, because the Vorcha is just so encouraging. Is like, no, fuck that guy. I'm on your side. And, like, it's like a romance that's starting to happen between the two of them. And the Infiltrator is a human. I'm just like, this is such an interesting friendship. And then by the end of the conversation, the human says, like, do you think maybe we could go on missions together?
I love that.
And the Vorcha's like, what level gun are you? When you get to 10, we'll talk. I'm just like, wow. That was a good conversation, too.
Also, Gallant Designer did say what their favorite was the Turian in love with a clueless Quarian bestie at Eternity.
That was also very good.
It is a good one.
So was the bachelor party where they talk about
the Asari and that they all see themselves in the Asari. Yeah. And the reason we see Liara looking humanish is because we're human.
Yeah. I find very funny.
I love that they never confirm nor deny that. And BioWare has been purposely very cagey about it. And I kind of love that that's still unconfirmed. We have a question from Spitty Spitz on Twitter. If you had to pick your favorite interaction with any character, squad mate, or NPC for each game, what would it be? So let's start with Mass Effect 1, and we'll both do Mass Effect 1 and then go from there.
I think for Mass Effect 1, there was this character. Oh, God, I can't remember her name. It began with a T. Maybe her name was Tabitha. But she is the character that you interact with based on your pre-service history. So there were 3 missions for the pre-service history. One for one for Colonist, one for Earthborn, one for Spacer. So the one for Colonist was this young girl who had been rescued from Batarian slavers. She was a colonist on Minoir, and she was abducted as a small child, and she was raised as a slave under Batarians, and she was rescued by Human Alliance. And she's having a really hard time with it. And the reason why it's my favorite of Mass Effect 1 is because it allows allowed my Shepard specifically to explore her own experience and to just bond with someone and show them, like, I know, like, that trauma that you're going through. Like, your trauma is still different and more progressed than mine, but I've also been through things, and it can be okay.
Yeah.
And we can work together to make it okay. And I thought it was just a really nice and tender moment for Shepard to be a person.
Yeah, totally. My Mass Effect 1 favorite will always be Captain Kirrahe.
Ah, yes.
and hold the line. It's a great speech. It's just a great speech. It makes me wish Kirrahe was a NPC, a romanceable character, or a party member.
Man, I want to romance the heck out of Kirrahe.
Yep. What about Mass Effect 2?
Oh, favorite interaction, Mass Effect 2. Come back to me on that one. You go first on that one. I need to think about it.
For me, Mass Effect 2, I think my favorite interaction is, I'm going to lump them all together, but every interaction with Commander Bailey. Because he's such an interesting character that you could either choose to take at face value as a cop who has no morals, or like likes to skate the line, or you can find out about him like he's divorced, he has kids, you know, he wants to help because he knows the system is broken, even though he sometimes leans into the system being broken. And my favorite is the stuff with Kolyat, like how he treats that situation. Like, obviously that mission's great, but how he treats it because he has a kid is really interesting to me. And I just like Commander Bailey as a character. That's, you know, it's easy to do squad mates with this stuff, but I think I'd rather do it with talk about NPCs because we spent less time talking about them.
I am going to say, surprisingly, Arya.
Arya is a good one.
Because Arya really sets the tone for the game itself, doesn't she?
That's true.
Aside from the elusive man, she's the next biggest person you interact with.
Yeah.
Who isn't like someone that's on your team. And she really sets the entire tone for the game. This is going to be lawless. This is not going to be rigid to military ranks. Like, you're not working on a military ship anymore. There is no like rule about fraternization or anything like that. You're just used to being military, and now you're in the terminus systems where there's mercenaries everywhere and you're just like trying to survive. So I think I'm going to say Arya because I think she set the tone for the game.
That's a good one. Also, I would romance the heck out of Arya if it were an option.
Not.
Really?
She would kill me.
Yeah, I'm kind of...
She would absolutely hate me and kill me.
I don't know. After Mass Effect 3, Arya might be more malleable. Anyway, for Mass Effect 3, it's funny. I think for Mass Effect 3, for me, it's Arya. Because that whole Omega mission, you really get to know her, see her. Also, Carrie-Anne Moss is just so amazing in that role. I think Arya in the third game, specifically the interactions with her in the Omega DLC, are some of my favorites because you really get to see her grow. You know, yeah, we have a female character who's fridged, but like you get to see that she's queer. You get to see that she's, you know, she does have a soft spot. She does care about people. Like, she cares about her people.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting DLC. And we did a great episode about it with Nelson Lugo that I loved exploring. So I think that's mine for 3.
For 3, it is definitely the love confession with Garrus on the top of the Presidium.
That's very good.
Because it's sweet. It's nice. He, like, sweeps you off your feet. And you also, like, do the bottle shooting competition regardless if you're dating or not. Like, you still do it.
Yep.
And he's like, great, we're dating. Now for the other part.
Yeah.
Now to prove that I am a better sniper than you are. Which I really appreciate. It's just because your relationship is born out of friendship. And there's still that playfulness there. So, yeah, that's my favorite for 3.
That makes a lot of sense. And, like, I think Garrus as a whole is one of the more natural characters of all of the characters.
Yes.
Like, he just, from game to game, feels the most the same, with still his own growth, but he doesn't change as drastically as a lot of the other characters from 1 to 3.
Yeah. From Spectre Alafet, the ghost at the party, my favorite ghost at the party, we have a bunch of questions. One question that was also asked by Kerfliggle. Having now played through the full trilogy together, was there anything that surprised either of you about your own playthroughs or each other's?
That's a really good question. I will stall like a champ by stating how great the question was. I mean, I honestly was surprised that you picked Synthesis. I really didn't think you would, and we just discussed that. But about my playthrough, I mean, I'm surprised that I romanced Jack. I've never romanced Jack before. I've always liked the character. I thought the character was interesting, if not a little cliche. But I think getting to know Courtney Taylor as like an actress just in other things and like really paying closer attention in the playthrough. I was surprised that I romanced her, but I'm glad that I did. I really liked what I learned. I liked how that relationship develops. I like how that relationship resolves. Like a lot of media, like you can't have a breakup without it being like horribly antagonistic and like aggressive. And like MJ and I used to date, and we're still very, very good friends, best friends. I think closer than we ever were when we were together.
Oh yeah.
And I like that in Mass Effect, you can break up with someone and it's not heartbreak. It's amicable. They both realize that they weren't right for each other, and they're still friends, and Jack still cares about you. And so I think that was probably my most surprising like thing I discovered on this playthrough. What about you?
I think it was surprising to find Liara's initial relationship as predatory and like difficult to experience as an adult, because she had been my foray into my queerness and she helped me explore that. To come back to it as a 30-year-old and to be firmly in adulthood and to interact with her felt so predatory, and that surprised me immensely. And for me to just be like, "Ooh, no, don't want, do not want." Yeah, I didn't expect it. I thought that I would romance Liara, but I didn't. And as for about your playthrough, I was not surprised that you wound up with Caden. I expected it from go.
Yeah, I know.
I called it. I was surprised that you romanced Jack, though.
Yeah.
But then, like, after you started talking about it, I was like, oh, no, that does make sense. He does have that savior complex.
Yeah,
So
I do.
It does make sense. He does want to save people. And also, you choosing synthesis.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Spectre's second question: what thing surprised you the most in how well it held up through a 2018 to 2021 lens? I mean, I would say that all of the stuff in the third game that deals with queerness, while it does, some of it does feel a little too late. And of course, there's no trans representation and not really any asexual representation. I think that the queer relationships that are there are really meaningful and really well made. They could always be better, but I think they still hold up. And I will say that the Geth narrative absolutely holds up from start to finish.
Yes.
Like, and I understand it better now as a grown ass man, and I think holds up really well. I think that whole arc and learning about the Geth, and like especially since it takes the enemies you butchered in the first game and made you side with them in the third game, more or less, if you are of a reasonable non-genocidal mind. Like, that's still mind-blowing to me and is easily one of those things that I think holds up the best.
Yeah, my answer is the Geth. Like, their whole narrative arc, I think I was always empathetic towards them and sympathetic towards them, and that didn't change. Like, how I felt about the Geth stayed true. Our
next question from Spectre is, what insight from a guest startled, provoked, thought the most? I read that really awkwardly, but we're going to go with it.
What insight from a guest startled you or provoked thought the most?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's no way to edit out my read, so, both are going to be there. And I'm still just stalling. I mean, we've had so many incredible guests on the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like all of them bring such interesting insights to us. Oh, God, it's so hard to pick.
I have an answer. I'm going to say May Pearson, who helped me come to terms with my feelings about Morinth / Samara. Because May really started vocalizing it and why it was such a gross feeling to go after Morinth. And it was because they had written her in such a way so as to not be sympathetic and to drive you away from her and towards Samara. So I'm going to say May Pearson really helped me to come to terms with my thoughts about Morinth.
I mean, I have a joke answer first, and that's our guest Jesse Vitelli and how he pointed out that there are too many turrets in this game. I really didn't think that hard about it. And then in this playthrough, every time we found a damn turret, I was like, Jesse, you've opened my eyes. But I mean, really, like, I didn't really think that hard about it. And then I really noticed it after he mentioned it. And then I think Ken really, like, obviously Ken loves Caden and has fought for Caden, has done lots of different things. He has an ode to Caden. If you've not seen it, I believe it's on YouTube. Look up Kenneth Shepard Ode to Caden. But he continued to open my eyes on a thing that I had already been thinking about and been thinking about a lot, which is that Caden is more of the character than people give him credit for. And he continued to astonish me with his knowledge of the series and how passionate he was about the series when he came on the show.
That was a good answer, even though it was about my arch nemesis.
Yes. I love how literally Eric and I are the chill guys on the side who are just like, yeah, cool, what's up? And you and Ken are arch nemesis.
Yes.
It's just we fit our roles on our respective podcasts pretty well.
Yes, that's exactly why we're arch nemesis. Moving on to Commander Nikki. We got a bunch of questions via Twitter from Commander Nikki. What character besides Grunt would you adopt as your child?
I don't know. Do you have an answer for this?
I have two.
Okay.
First answer is Vitor.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
I love Vitor.
Vitor's
He's
great.
so sweet.
Yeah.
And my second answer is that girl on the Citadel refugee docks whose family is just never going to show up. I'm just like, oh, sweetie. Oh, come live on my warship. It's definitely safer for you there, side-eye. But I want to protect you.
I think especially as my shepherd, I would want to adopt Trainer. Trainer's just so damn adorable and kind and sweet. And then I think Edie. Edie is essentially your child. You're teaching her and, educating her. And, I think that she would make an excellent daughter who will take care of me in my old age.
Favorite mini game? I don't know what counts as a mini game, though.
I mean, I'm sure the Armax Arena stuff is a mini game. The Pyjack shooting is a mini game.
Okay, yeah. I do love Armax.
Yeah. I think for me, my favorite mini game is the Pyjack shooting in the third game. I just like shooting those little bastards.
They're innocent animals.
Yeah, but they're apparently delicious to the Varan that,
All right.
It gets you your own Varan pet on Tachanka.
I know. I do love Urs. I love Urs so much. And it made me so upset that you couldn't take Urs with you.
I know.
It should have been Urs on the ship.
Not the Robo-Dog.
Not the robot dog. You should have had Urs. Yeah, I think I'm going to say Armax. I really just enjoyed setting things up and picking random people.
Yeah.
And because story-wise, I always like taking Garrus and Tally, Armax gave me the opportunity to fight with other people too.
Yeah.
Because narratively, I want my best friends with me, but if we're just hanging out and shooting things, James Vega can come along. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Armax, even though I don't know if it counts as a minigame.
I will say my least favorite minigame on the PC playthrough was mining because I hated doing it with a mouse.
Mining.
It sucks. With a controller, it's fine, but with a mouse and keyboard, it just blows.
I like mining because I like repetitive tasks.
I know.
I like to just be able to sit there and scroll, and when you feel the rumble of the controller, ha!
I found a thing.
Okay. Next up, it's favorite Paragon and Renegade interrupts.
I mean, the top tier Paragon or Renegade interrupt for me, I think that I will always choose with reckless abandon, and I said it in the episode, is the choice to stab Kai Lang.
Yes.
Every time I will choose that.
I think that's up there for me.
And then that's my runner-up for Renegade choice is the monologuing Krogan in 3 as well.
Where you shoot
the gas tank and he catches on fire.
My favorite thing about that is if you do that mission before Zaid's mission.
You do it. It happens. You do it and then get mad about it.
No, Zaid does it.
Oh, right.
And it's just oh.
Copycat.
It just makes it look like Zaid learned it from Shepard and then just did bad.
I learned it from watching you. Yeah.
Which makes me laugh. I think also stabbing Kai Lang is my top Renegade trigger. I think my top Paragon trigger is pistol whipping Dr. Archer. Gavin Archer, that's his name.
Yeah.
Pistol whipping Gavin Archer because fuck you.
Yeah.
How dare you do this to your brother?
Yeah. I think another favorite Paragon, Renegade trigger rather, is electrocuting the pilot. So the ship doesn't get fixed in the second game.
Yeah.
Is a good one. I can't think of a good Paragon one.
Hugging Tally.
Oh, hugging Tally. Absolutely. I will always take that Paragon.
Always hug your friends.
Always. Every time. Even if I'm playing a Renegade Shepherd, I always take that Paragon trigger.
Okay, this next one is not so much a question as it is a thought exercise, I guess, which was, can you think of a way to add a Vorcha or Batarian squad mate? Not to the existing games.
No, not as they exist, but I mean, I would love a Vorcha or
Yeah.
a Batarian squad mate, especially since Mark Meer voices so many of the Vorcha.
Yes.
Like, I would just like to have Shepard and a Vorcha in the same party.
That would be
Because
fun.
it'd just be Mark Meer talking to himself.
But in a possible future game, we could, because hopefully a lot of biases will be dismantled.
Yes.
Because I don't know if Vorcha would be viable. Anyway, but I think having especially a Batarian squad mate would be excellent, because the way we view Batarians through Shepard's eyes is very negative.
Yeah.
And while their hegemony is fueled by a slave trade, Batarians as individuals don't represent that,
Yeah.
right? Like, the Batarians are not a monolith.
I've thought of a way to put a Batarian in the current games in your squad. After what's the name of
Bray.
Bray. Bray is cool. I
love
like
Bray.
Bray.
I love
and
Bray
like
so
Bray should come with you after Omega. Like you can't take Arya with you. It'd be too powerful. But like Bray should come with you after. Because Bray is awesome. So that's how I would put a Batarian in the third game.
There you go.
Way too late.
All right. From @BullockBits on Twitter. Do you feel the original ending was satisfying and earned, or betrayed what the series was trying to do leading up to then? BullockBits, I feel like you have a definitive answer.
Yeah, I do too. But like, so I barely remember the original ending. I looked it up, as I said in last episode before, just to like, but it's mostly just the prologue stuff. The core game related ending of like the choices you make and the, the catalyst and all that is mostly unchanged, if not completely. But you get a punctuation mark. And I don't think the original ending was a betrayal. I'm glad that the postmark is there, that like little after, like we both discussed that Edie, like telling you what happened and saying that she's alive because of you is really emotional and really impactful. But like I've said this on that episode, I will say it on future episodes. I will say it on other people's podcasts when they have me on. The third game was the ending. The whole third game was the ending. It was nothing but resolutions to stories throughout the first two games. And yes, the final decision, I can see how it could be disappointing because it feels very, not binary because there's three choices, but very, here's three things. But I don't care that much because, again, everything leading up to that is great. And that cap was never going to be satisfying. I don't think there's anything BioWare could have done to make that good for everyone. Because you're ending a game that's defined by choices. You have to end it with a choice, unless they made a canonical ending that you couldn't change, which also people would hate probably.
Right.
So
Yes.
so yeah, I don't feel betrayed by it. I was disappointed when I first played it, and it's why I didn't play 3 that much. But now having replayed 3 both for this podcast and very recently for Legendary Edition, I love 3. I am coming over to Ken Shepard's way of thinking, which was another thing that like he made me think about differently when he guested. 3 is a great game.
No, I agree.
3,
I love 3.
3 might be better than 2 because 2 is a series of vignettes, essentially. It's a bunch of small stories that lead up to a big moment with the collectors. 3 is a wrap up of everything you've worked towards.
No, I think that each game gives you something different, and I
Yes.
think they're all excellent in their own right. I think that 2 is really good if you like an ensemble cast and you like having like all these different little stories and these kind of slices of life. 2 is really good for that. 3 is good for if you like seeing resolution.
Yeah.
Because you see resolution to like the Genophage. You see resolution to the Quarians and the Geth. You see resolution to Cerberus.
Yep.
Like it's just resolution after resolution. So I agree with you that the entirety of Mass Effect 3 is the end of the franchise. Like it's all an ending. So I never felt betrayed by the ending, even before they added in the epilogue. Like, what I have liked a little more like explanation of this is how that choice you made impacts the world. I would have liked that. And then I got it when they did the extended ending.
Yeah.
So, hey, I win.
Yeah. And I mean, yes. Do I wish that was in the base game? Yes. Do I also wish they didn't lock Javik behind DLC
Oh, yeah,
in the
definitely.
original release? Like all of those were bad EA-based decisions for money, sure. But I'm glad that they made the extended ending. I do feel satisfied by it, and I don't feel betrayed by it. And I think the people who feel betrayed by it are taking it a little too seriously or not really focusing on the bigger picture. That said, I mean, if you do feel betrayed by it, I mean, that's your prerogative.
Your feelings are your feelings, and we can't tell you how to feel.
Right, but I don't really agree with that.
Our last question we actually kind of answered already. It was from Raphael H89 on Discord. Do you hope the new game focuses on new stories or continues the previous ones? We have kind of
a mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the biggest thing that I want is not to play as Shepard. I think that it's time to move on to a new character. I think they had the right idea with doing Ryder, even though I haven't played it yet. Like the idea of making a new character made sense at that point. But like I like that Dragon Age is not the same character in every game. I wish they were more consistent, and 2 and 3 are definitely more consistent than, or 2 and Inquisition, than 1 and 2. But I think they had the right idea by making a big world where the stories continue and you play a different character every time. And I think for Mass Effect to have a sustainable future, that makes more sense for the franchise to me.
I can see that. While I would like to continue my writer's story, if they choose to go with a different protagonist, I think that would be fine, but I don't want my writer to just be gone.
Yeah,
like I would like writer to still be there.
Yeah, I think that if they can find a way to wrap those choices together.
Like in Dragon Age, the Warden is off doing something if your Warden survived.
Yep.
Like, and Hawk makes an appearance.
Right.
So like, I think if you were to go that route of having a new protagonist,
have Ryder show up like Hawk shows up.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
I think so too. Okay, and that was it for our listener questions.
Yep. Now, before we start to wrap things up, we have an email, a very long email from David Anderson. It's Dad? No, it's a different David Anderson.
It's not Admiral Dadderson. It is someone else. It's long though, so I'm not sure if I want to read the entire thing.
I think we can skim it and read some of it. I'll start with the first paragraph. I know I've arrived a bit late to the party, but I just recently discovered Reignite thanks to Spotify's recommendation engine. Woohoo, it works. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I wanted to write a review somewhere, but couldn't find an option to do so on Spotify. And since I'm on Android, I can't do it on iTunes. And I wanted to write one on Google Podcasts, but that one was just weird. So I thought I'd send an email instead. I'm only just starting the ME2 episodes this morning. I skipped the DLC for now, as on the Xbox 360, I couldn't access them from Central Eastern Europe, Hungary, to be precise. Well, welcome and thank you for writing from Hungary. So I'm waiting for the Legendary Edition to explore all of that. And I just want to let you know how awesome your podcast is. I really like how you dissect the games and with a keen eye for social issues and representation. This made me rethink a whole lot about the games that I love a lot.
Just a few thoughts on Mass Effect 1, if you can bear with me. And certainly, of course, we can bear with you. I think we can do that. You made me realize how problematic Mass Effect 1 is from a representation standpoint, which I don't think I really... You made me realize how problematic Mass Effect 1 is from a representation standpoint, which I didn't really think about when I played it first. It was interesting to realize why on later playthroughs these issues never really occurred to me, as I was more focused on getting through Mass Effect 1 as fast as possible because of the game mechanics. So it'll be interesting to see once I'm getting my hands on Legendary Edition.
He has some thoughts about Presley. To me, Presley's reservations was kind of understandable about not letting aliens roam the ship freely, as from a military aspect. I mean, the Normandy was the Alliance's most cutting-edge ship. Circumstances for the start of the first game felt like you would be wary of alien races as humans are still newcomers to the whole galactic party. That said, I shut it down because, racism.
Also with Ashley, I kind of missed the quote, aliens from the animals line on my first playthrough on the Citadel and some of her other dialogue, as I realized traversing the Normandy in Mass Effect 1 was something I didn't really do because of the horribly slow loading speed. So I only realized later that you could talk to your team members on other levels of the ship. That made me realize how problematic she is in the first game, but I think she grows a lot in the later games. Okay, make that Mass Effect 3 because in 2 she's not really present. There's something about your marshmallow boy.
There is. I know you're big fans of Marshmallow of Toasty Marshmallow Caden, but I couldn't really grow to like him in later games either. I think ME3 Ashley simply has a better progression arc. Also, because I usually play Infiltrator, my typical party consists of tank kind of member, and Ashley is pretty much that, or biotic tech combo with Liara or Rex to take care of the biotic part. That said, I pretty much never use my human party members after I recruit Rex, Garrus, Liara, and Tali. In later games, Grunt, Thane even. I never played so far with Kasumi or Zaid because DLCs, and so I'm really excited to meet them in the Legendary Edition as well. Okay, I mean, I get it. You know, we like to bash Ashley, but people have their reasons for wanting to keep her around. This is all about discussing our choices and options, and so we appreciate you sharing with us. We're going to jump around a bit. You say that you love Kirihi, and you loved us talking about him in the Solarian camp on Vermeer. You know, also Femshep for the win. You, like us, love Jennifer Hale, but also enjoy Mark Muir's performance as well. You wrote a lot, and thank you so much for writing us. We'll be here all day if we read the whole email.
Let's jump to the end. That's about it so far. I'll keep listening to further episodes and enjoy your banter. Oh, thank you. Keep up the good work. Wishing you all the best. Signed, David Anderson. Yep, that's my real name. I know it's not son, S-O-N, at the end, but in one of the Facebook Mass Effect groups, people always point out that it's just one vowel away from Captain Datterson. I don't know if you've covered this in later episodes, but you could talk about the issue of content availability based on your location. We didn't really talk about this because it wasn't something that we ran into, as we're based in the US and all of our guests have been based in the US, so it wasn't really a topic of conversation. I'm really sorry that that's a wall for you, though. It is very upsetting and unfair.
Yeah, and it does happen with a lot of other games too. I know folks both in Canada and in Europe and in all sorts of different places that get gate kept off certain things because they're just not available in that region. So I'm sorry you had to experience that. Thank you, David Anderson, for writing us. Sorry so long it took us to get to your email. Most of the episodes have been really long. And so but this is our finale and we wanted to close it with a strong and awesome email. We love getting these emails. Please don't hesitate to send us this stuff, whether it's an email, writing a review online, whatever. We love hearing from you. It absolutely always makes my day.
Please do hesitate in sending us Andromeda spoilers, though, because Matt still hasn't played it.
Yeah, if you want to ask a question about Andromeda, I would flag spoilers in the title maybe or something, so I know not to check that email. I'm going to check it less anyway, but also like if you're replying to the Reignite Twitter account, I check that, so just maybe put spoilers somewhere in there so I know to avoid it.
Yeah. So to celebrate this amazing journey that we've been on, we are so pleased to say that Fandom Corner has finally paid off.
Yes.
We got a message from Psychic Interval, the Etsy seller, who did these gorgeous Reaper pins, asking if we wanted to team up to do a giveaway. And we are really excited. We're going to do a giveaway. You can check our Twitter today and see all the rules to enter the giveaway there. We'll run it until the beginning of our next season.
Yep.
And we'll announce on our first episode of the next season who the winner is, and you will win a set of Reaper pins created by Psychic Interval. Thank you so much for staying with us throughout the years. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, and thank you to Psychic Interval for wanting to help us celebrate this and being a part of our community, for liking the podcast and the mutual love that we got to share on Instagram. Your work is incredible, and we're so glad that you're giving us pins to pass on to the community and share in this incredible giveaway. There will be more details about that, like MJ said, on our Twitter, so keep an eye out for that shortly after this episode airs or when it did. And also, speaking to the end of Reignite, it's not ending. We're not going anywhere. We've been teasing it all season. MJ's been making jokes all season at my expense. Reignite is not over. We will be continuing with Season 4 and Mass Effect Andromeda, and a game I've never played. I missed it. It came out at the same time as Breath of the Wild. I had just gotten my Switch. It had gotten horrible reviews and was being bashed for being buggy and broken, so I skipped it. And then over the years, I continued to skip it because it just wasn't a priority, and I had kind of fallen out of the Mass Effect games after kind of bouncing off 3, and this podcast reignited my love of the franchise, and now I am playing it obsessively again. So thanks. And so I missed it. And so I'm going to be experiencing it for the first time with the podcast. I've not done anything like this on this scale. Obviously with Citadel, I hadn't played it before, but like this is an entire game where I have to follow the careful instructions of my co-host so I don't get ahead of where I'm supposed to.
Meanwhile, I have played it 5-6 times. Like, I have played it back to back to back to back. I loved it so much. I've tried really hard to avoid giving Matt any spoilers about it, but there are some things that he knows. So we're starting off on the same foot. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you do know about Andromeda?
Sure. I know that the character's name is Ryder, with a nebulous first name again, because, technology, I guess. I know that there's a character named PB who is a Asari, but I know nothing else about her, other than she wears a shirt that's weirdly unbuttoned at the bottom and showing off her midriff for no reason. It's fine. It's fashion, I guess. I know that we are in the Andromeda Galaxy. I know that it is more exploration focused, and it plays in a similar fashion to Inquisition, which I only beat for the first time this year and had only played a few times, even though I never finished it until recently. I know that there's a section of the game that is much like the Hinterlands, where when you get to it, you might want to abandon all hope and stop playing because it feels endless if you try and do it all at once. And I think that's it. And I know that you can romance some aliens. And I know that MJ has already decided who my favorite character is going to be.
Yes, I did.
So those are the things that I know. I also know that most of the bugs did get fixed. And I know that a lot of the reactions to the game were blown out of proportion based on comparing it to the original trilogy. We have staunch defenders of previous guests who will be coming back to talk about this game with us, as well as people who didn't like it. We want to bring them in too. We're here to have a discussion. As long as we're not poo-pooing and shitting on a game, we want to have those negative conversations too, because those opinions are also valid.
Yes, it's okay to not like something. It is not okay to be mean about it. And if you have opinions about what you think Matt's experience is going to be like, you can head over to bit.ly/storminandromeda to take our survey and weigh in. Whoever is most accurate will win a prize at the end of next season.
And of course, we've teased it before. We're not ready to make any official announcements on what season 5 and beyond will be like, but we do intend, unless something happens, to continue after Andromeda. Mm-hmm. We do not know what form that will take. Of course, we've teased the Dragon Age series, and it does seem like the most obvious contender. But the reality is, based on our format, which is a little different from other podcasts retrospectives who have done it, we have to make sure it fits. Because I think the core of this podcast has been since day one, when MJ thought of it, is what if we were the character? What choices would we make? And I think what's going to be most important is not necessarily even creating a character, although that's probably pretty important, is can we make varying decisions that will affect the flow of the game?
Yes.
And obviously Dragon Age is a big contender. The Fallout games are a big contender. We've joked about the Skyrim games, the Elder Scrolls games, but those games are gigantic. It really depends on what we feel comfortable tackling. We've joked about the Fable franchise, which I think MJ and I are the only people who still like at this point.
I like Fable.
The choices have to matter too, right? They have to affect not necessarily the ending, but the how the character grows and changes.
Yeah. So how people perceive the character as well, I think.
Yeah, and there are a ton of games that do that. Like, the games don't have to carry over from game to game. Like, of course, ideally with Mass Effect, we love that, but we're still deciding. So fret not. There will be subsequent seasons. We want to continue the show for as long as we can continue to do it. But for now, we're not worrying about that. We are focusing on season 4, which will be Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, and there will be another Mass Effect game.
There will be. And while it is very unlikely that that game will come out by the time we finish Andromeda.
But can you imagine, though?
I mean, if it did, then we would keep doing Mass Effect. It would work out pretty well. But obviously, when we know more about the new Mass Effect game, we will talk about that. When that game comes out, we'll, of course, cover that game. And also, we will be doing a more in-depth episode about the Legendary Edition. We're thinking probably towards N7 Day. We want to do something a little different. I think I want to highlight the voices of people who never played these games till the current console generation. And so that might be a starting point for that discussion, but we're still working on that, so we haven't forgotten about that. I want to take a moment to thank MJ. This was your idea. And while I can take 100% of the credit for you liking Mass Effect, and I often do, this podcast wouldn't have happened without you. I already was doing other podcasts. I couldn't do this alone. You do a lot of the heavy lifting.
You are not allowed to cry.
I won't. I promise. I promise. I couldn't do half of the heavy lifting of running the contests, most of the social media stuff you see as MJ, all of the ideas, the outlines for every episode, 90% of the note taking, the in-depth analysis, a lot of it comes from MJ. And this was her idea, something that we joked about even, I think, back when we were dating, and it came to fruition many years later. And so thank you for that. It made me re-fall in love with these games. I really didn't like Mass Effect 3. I was lumped in with the idiots online who just bashed it because I was disappointed by the ending. But now I've gotten to rediscover that love, and through the Legendary Edition coming out so much closer after, I really do love these games, and they really are some of my favorite games I've ever played. And I have this podcast to thank for it, because it forced me to look at this game that I love in a very different way. So thank you.
I want to thank you because
no crying.
I'm not going to cry.
Okay, just saying. Because if one of us starts crying, then you're just going to listen to us.
The other one's going to start crying, and this could be 30 minutes of us crying.
Right, exactly.
No, I want to thank you because when I brought this to you, it was like, but what if, right? And you were down. You were so down. And every time I have a stupid idea, you were 100% in for it. And I was worried that you wouldn't want to do Andromeda. But you're down to do that too. And you're down to go into it blind. And you are such a strong and wonderful presence in my life. And this podcast has kept us together. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, our friendship, we have a strong friendship, but through the pandemic, this has definitely been a lifeline. I love doing it. It, has its frustrations, especially when I wait till the day before to edit an episode before it goes up. Because I do pretty much 90% of the editing for
That's
this.
True. I'm going to do it?
No, you already do enough. But no, I couldn't have imagined. And finally, I want to thank the listeners. It's really cheesy, but we have the best listeners in the galaxy. And I never dreamed that we'd get fan art and people interacting in the Discord, people arguing and bickering over moments in the games. And there's so many of you I know by name, like Commander Nikki and Kerfligel and so many others. And then others that I don't even know by name. Maybe you haven't even wrote us. We are endlessly grateful for all of you. If you are listening to this now and you're wondering how you can help us best, of course, buy our merch, of course, interact online. But really, if you love this show and you want to see this community continue to grow, tell one person who loves narrative video games about this podcast. You can tell more, but tell at least one person. If everyone listening tells one person, our audience can only grow and get better, because I trust and love all the people currently listening. So again, thank you so much for being here with us for 3 seasons, for too many episodes to count, and so many more. We really endlessly appreciate all of you.
Are you done being in your feels?
I am.
Okay. I think it's time to do the outro.
We should. We are taking a summer break. We deserve it. So while we're taking a summer break, for the most part, the episodes will not, because we teased it for a while, but you're finally going to get to hear the latest Blasto episodes. We have 2 of them. Our incredible previous guest and husband to my co-host, John Bradley Lestrange, DM'd one gigantic campaign, and we have a newcomer. We have some old faces come back, and we did so much. We recorded for over 4 hours.
Yeah.
So we have 2 episodes coming for you, if not more, of that session. We're so excited to share that with you again. It will be edited again by the incredible Case Aiken, who did such a brilliant job on our first Blasto episode between season 2 and season 3. So enjoy that. And then after those episodes are done, we'll be back in mid to late September with the premiere of our Andromeda season. And I'm very excited to talk to y'all again then and experience this game cold from one of my favorite franchises ever.
If you like what you heard here, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're, of course, members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. Visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server. We still have a channel called Matt Stay Out, which is all about Andromeda spoilers. I think we might create an additional channel to chronicle some of the things that I want to express, but we'll see. We might just do that in the main episode feed. But I'm very excited to talk to y'all about this game that I know nothing about, and I'm excited to play.
Yes. We work on some other projects. For example, I am a member of Archives of the Dragon, and we have launched a new show recently that is based on Mass Effect. It's called Project Trailblazer, and it's set in the aftermath of Andromeda. 3 aliens and 1 AI must work together to explore the unknown beyond the Helios cluster. It's a grand adventure with plenty of humor and heart, and you can check that out every other Monday on twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
I do a ton of stuff as well, and it's too much to list, but if you go to www.djstormageddon.com, you can find quick links to my Twitch page, all of my podcasts, my merch store, literally everything. If you want to support me in any way outside of this podcast, that is the place to go. Also, if you're a fan of Fuser, I am a featured Fuser DJ. I've been DJing weekly. And if you just want to go to a Twitch stream where you can chill out and listen to some cool music for 2 to 3 hours, I highly recommend it. I don't talk very much, which is shocking. But I mostly just kind of chill and I mix live, and it's like performing, DJing live, and it's been a lot of fun. So you can definitely go check that out.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kaden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband, the incredible Case Aiken, for developing more amazing t-shirt designs that you can find at certainpov.com or on Teespring.
Thank you to David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. And lastly, thank you, Dan Bull, for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. We really appreciate you. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Mass Effect. I'm Commander Shepard, the man with the method to brandish a weapon and then handle the death with it. I'm an effortless hero. My rhymes shine brighter than element zero, bringing more fire than Emperor Nero. It's the end of an era. Yo, there's something mysterious with Siren Arterius committing violence against Nihilus. I'm furious. I'll chase him from place to place, base to base, until we're face to face. I'm serious. From the serious relay to Artemis Tau, I'll tighten the net. I'm not far from it now. I'll fight all the get till a bastard is found. I'll leave his heart in the ground. I'm the Southpaw outlaw scoundrel, bringing down more tools than a whole ground force. Listen out now, fool. It's pretty damn doubtful that I'll be sitting down with the Citadel Council. The Reapers are keen to bring about your downfall, so me and my team are about to flout laws. I'll introduce you to the whole of my party. Garrus, Liara, Tassoni and Tali, Rex, Kaiden, Ashley, Joker, the army. You roll with an Asari, older than Atari, a Kroger that'll leave you cold within a heartbeat. My team's hotter than a stolen Ferrari. Can a Volus go shoulder to shoulder with me hardly? My ship's seeing off more foes than a Somalis. So we're going on safari to the far reaches, it'll be gnarly. Seeing stranger creations than Dali, and breaking more faces than Arnie. Mass Effect 2. Blown to pieces and reassemble. I don't believe this, it's bleeding mental. But then again, with these credentials, can they be blamed for believing me essential? I don't want to be nervously lunching with Cerberus. I prefer to be punching a journalist. Souping up all my guns for the skirmishes in which I'll puncture the firmament. Permanent, I'm gonna live a Mass Effect. My skill to kill a million billion massive get. Commander Shepard's formidable syllables hitting the particular is a miracle that commands mass respect. Incontestable, I'm a professional, but my new boss is less than respectable. So you better cover at your testicles, cause my next method's a bit of a spectacle. More fresh and raw than a vegetable, coming from the underground with the hunger of a thresher more. I need the rack 9 with the black eye, slap pie jacks with the backhand, never act nice. Rap line sharper than a cacti, or the bite of a Varan on a barren planet baptized in flame. Rise again, in fact I'm insane, providing pain, back from the afterlife, packing an appetite to invade. This in a driving range, but I'll leave you with 18 holes inside of your brain, like a Swiss cheese. Bitch please, you'll disbelieve the manner in which I kick freeze. Bringing sci-fi to your hi-fi is the highlight of your lifetime with ease. This is just the beginning.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.